Now, boys and girls, anybody that's been around the gaming industry for any amount of time, or is someone who could actually read a little bit of history and is willing to do some of the research, that knows that it would not be the first time in gaming history, especially in the modern era, with a lot of the game journalists that we have out there and all the legacy media that's still holding on desperately trying to hold on to some kind of life for themselves and some kind of niche inside of the market, which has basically been taken over completely and totally by YouTubers and a lot of other independent people out there that people can actually trust, because we simply don't trust these mainstream legacy media entertainment sources anymore, especially for gaming journalism, because we've been proven time and time again true that they have no problem getting inside of coordinated events and trying to take down and or promote things in the past. We've heard about their whispered networks. We've seen the evidence of all of that kind of stuff. Gamergate 1.0 was the exposure of all of that kind of stuff, and anybody that knows your history around the gaming community knows exactly what happened with all of that and how much of a coordinated attack that was from game journalists all over the place out there. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if rumor be true, it looks like it's been the exact same thing going on right now, going against Stellar Blade once again. Now, obviously, it doesn't take much rocket science to put two and two together and look at all of the different headlines we've seen from a lot of your typical sources like IGN, Kotaku, and all of the Games Radar, and a lot of the rest of the nonsense screwballs out there, those possessed by the spirit of the age and those completely overtaken by that are completely and totally complicit in being acolytes of the cult. There we go. I'll spit it out eventually today, boys and girls. And needless to say, this should come as no shock to any of us. Because over here at That Park Place, IGN and Kotaku accused of coordinated censorship campaign against Stellar Blade by accusing it of racism. Oh, color us shocked, boys and girls. So if you haven't heard about this story yet, if you haven't heard about all of this kind of stuff, make sure you stick around, because this is going to be very interesting. And as always, That Park Place is doing a great job at laying out all the evidence. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that like button, share it with all your friends, subscribe if you have not already, or follow depending on what platform you're on. Thank you guys so very much for that. All right, let's get into it. And we'll leave that picture up on the screen while we read this first little line here. I do love green. Video game outlets IGN and Kotaku have been accused of coordinating a censorship campaign against Stellar Blade by accusing the game of racism for an in-game graffiti that was positioned next to an in-game sign. Oh yes, because a bunch of people in South Korea are going to know all about English slang and what stuff like that means. Yeah, have we not already seen how many problems we have with translations to begin with? Really, boys and girls? Ex-user Lid15 posted that IGN coordinated with YouTuber Lance McDonald to pressure Sony with accusations of racism. He first shot a screenshot of McDonald's post on X, noting that was shared at 3 p.m. Original tweet, 3 p.m. Lance McDonald. Stellar Blade embargo is up, so I can finally show you the hard R shop graffiti. LMAO. Wonder how long this'll take to get patched out. Now, why would that need to get patched out? What are you trying to assume that means? Is there some kind of racist connotations behind a shop called the Hard R, especially coming from South Korea? No, that's English slang. But just as all these weirdos, journalists out there, quote unquote, these legacy media acolytes of the cult, they project their own insecurities, their own issues, and their own doubts onto absolutely everyone else around them, and even going so far as to project them on an entire other country, which is where Stellar Blade was actually developed. Next, he noted that IGN published their article about their graffiti as well. As Sony responds at the exact same time the McDonald's post went up. He wrote, IGN article, 3 p.m. Yeah, this was planned. He then noted that Kotaku published their article 25 minutes after both IGN's article and McDonald's post on X. Kotaku was 25 minutes after the original. Weird. I'm sure that's just coincidence, boys and girls. I'm sure they just all happened to schedule their stuff within the exact same amount of time, so that way it would have the most impact to be trending on the internet. I'm sure it was all coincidence, boys and girls. Sure. If you believe that, I got a bridge to sell you. Lid15 then asserted, so the original outrage bait was posted at 3 p.m. and IGN already had reached out for comment to Sony and gotten a response? Huh, that's kinda weird. Yeah, these effers are colluding. Yeah. Sony says Stellar Blade art referencing racist language was unintentional, will be patched out. 3 p.m. Now, mind you, Homeboy posted that picture at 3 p.m. when he said the embargo had lifted already. So now, given you could make the argument that maybe IGN, because they do have access, they are access media to Sony, maybe they saw this, had an issue with it, and went ahead and asked the question. I don't know, but it does seem awfully suspicious at the exact same time. Later in the thread, he shared a screenshot of the Washington Post's video game report as Gene Park commenting on the hard graffiti and how it's located throughout the game. Park wrote, "Here's the hard tagging appearing in the first level. Steller Blade is repeating texture everywhere. The steakhouse logo that right appears in 3 different shops in a small tunnel above." Lid says, yeah, this is basically an example of people looking for something, anything they could use to controversy at the time of release. Yes, because this one, all it says is hard. There's no R next to it. It's literally just hard graffiti. So maybe poor placement, but also, once again, this would be completely and totally unbeknownst to Korean developers who don't speak English. Well, they might speak English, but they don't need to know our slang because they didn't grow up in the United States. Like, this is stupid. This is so stupid. Lid 15 was not alone in speculating the accusations of racism against Steller Blade was coordinated. Former World of Warcraft team lead Mark Kern asserted as much as well. In a now deleted post, Kern revealed McDonald denied sharing the graffiti with any journalist. McDonald told Kern, "Hey, I saw you tweeted a bunch about my Steller Blade screenshot. A bunch of people noticed the funny graffiti like a week or two ago, and we were all laughing about it because it's pretty funny and clearly it's a dumb accident. If any journalist reached out to Sony about it, I don't know them. I only talk to content creators mostly and other Australians. No one takes us seriously. I said a few weeks ago," this is McDonald added, "I said a few weeks ago and was excited to show the people once the embargo dropped, which I did when it did, though I'd mentioned its existence to some friends which also had the game early. At the time of this posting, Kern wrote, I think I have no reason not to believe Lance. I also think that coordinating timing of similar articles by IGN, Kotaku, and the other game journalists outlet is too coincidental to be an accident. It may be then that Lance's screenshot that he shared with other friends who also had the game was discovered independently by IGN and Kotaku simultaneously in their own playthroughs, and that they all found it simultaneously offensive, but that part also seems far-fetched to me." I added in the also, but seems far-fetched to me. He reiterated his suspicions that IGN and Kotaku coordinated in subsequent posts in response to Lid's 15 original said, Steller Blade's hard R controversy was manufactured as a coordinated attack. IGN and Kotaku responded ready with articles, including Sony's official response, exactly the moment the screenshot was posted by YouTuber Lance McDonald. Impossible for New to get the comment and response from Sony in such a short time. This had to be collusion designed to be posted. Instead, instant embargo lifted to create fake news and controversy. Right here from Grums with all of the screenshots, and shout out to Grums doing the Lord's work out there, covering all of this stuff. Shout out to Lance McDonald covering all of this stuff, or not Lance McDonald, but Lyle covering all this stuff, pointing out all this kind of stuff, because it's nonsense. And like I said, this would not be the first time in the gaming industry's history that we have seen coordinated attacks, not only on people, but on video games, on companies, and they know that Sony and a lot of these other big corporations still sometimes bow to the cult. They still bow to the mob on these social media platforms, even with X being a free speech platform. So how do you counter this? Do your own thing. Go out there and talk about this stuff yourself. Make videos, write articles. If you're not down for stuff like that, if you don't have the talent or the time for things like that, I completely understand. God blesses us all with different gifts. But you all can go out onto your social medias. You can post a comment on Sony's page saying, I don't agree with this. This is ridiculous. This is silly. Whether it be the costumes for Steller Blade, for Eve in Steller Blade, or whether it be silly stuff like this that are nothing more than an accident and something that could be offended by somebody. Is it a big deal that they took it out? I don't know. But censorship for censorship's sake is absolutely ridiculous. And the fact that a bunch of butthurt journalists want to coordinate an attack on Sony just to prove that they still have some kind of power and influence over these companies so they can get their rocks off and have something removed that is completely innocent and completely and totally ridiculous for anyone to complain about is exactly what they're doing. They are narcissists of the nines, and they are only interested in feeding their egos. So they will continue to attack anything that they think can get them clout, or they think they can push companies into bowing the knee to them. Well, guess what, Sony? Those people aren't the ones that buy your games. These are literally the people you're giving early access to, and you're giving them games before everybody else is getting them. They're not buying anything. They're not adding anything to your stuff anymore. And guess what? Nobody believes them anymore either. Nobody trusts IGN. Nobody trusts Kotaku. Nobody trusts Games Radar. Nobody trusts most of these former mainstream, now legacy media entertainment news coverage sites. That's just the way it is. They trust random people on YouTube more now than they trust what used to be the pillar of video game journalism. Well, guess what? You're going to go the way of the dodo because nobody trusts you anymore. So go ahead, keep bowing down to these people, Sony. And you'll continue to lose money like everybody else. Because at the end of the day, that old adage, go woke, go broke, exists for a reason. Because it's been proven true time and time again. So enjoy your time on the top of the hill. Because I'll tell you right now, the bulldozer's coming for that hill, and you're all going to end up falling flat on your butts. Hold on to your buckets.